All right. So for the first introduction speeches, each team's gonna get 5 minutes. So we'll start with the affirmative. But before we start, I'm gonna introduce to the camera. So we'll start on the left side.
Hi, my name is Benji.
My name is Cole.
I'm Tiana.
I'm Maya.
And on this team,
I'm
Megan.
And I'm Riley.
thank you everybody for coming out to Debatapalooza. And we'll start with the affirmative first. You got 5 minutes.
Hello, my name is Riley Jacobs, and I'm representing the affirmative side for the assault weapons ban of 2023. Some ideas claim that minority populations are disproportionately impacted by the accessibility of assault weapons and firearms in general. According to research, communities of color, particularly Black and Latino communities, are disproportionately affected by gun violence, including killings and mass shootings. These communities frequently also have greater rates of poverty and crime, which amplify the effects of gun violence. Additionally, there have been instances where law enforcement personnel have disproportionate force against minorities, frequently with catastrophic results. The possibility of these incidents happening may increase if police enforcement has access to assault weapons. Although the availability of assault weapons by itself may not always result in hate crimes, it is true that hate crimes performed with firearms, including assault weapons, can often result in greater harm and destruction than perpetuated with others types of weapons. Numerous high-profile instances of assault weapons-related hate crimes have occurred in recent years, including the LGBT nightclub in Orlando in 2016. Assault weapons can make it simpler for individuals to kill instantly large numbers of people and cause mass deaths, which compound the consequences of hate crimes and foster a climate of fear and insecurity in communities that are affected. A federal law passed in 1994 called the Assault Weapons Ban outlawed the production, sale, and ownership of specific semi-automatic weapons on large capacity magazines for civilian use. The influence of the law, which was enforced 1994 until 2004, is still being discussed today. However, the ban's detractors contended that the limits imposed were arbitrary and efficient, that is, had little to no effect on crime and gun violence. They contend that restriction only served to establish a black market for assault rifles because criminals can still obtain such weapons through unlawful means. And lastly, it's a sad fact that children in America die from gun violence more often than any other cause. Gun violence were the second most common cause of death for kids and teenagers ages 1 to 19 in 2019, according from data from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC. With over 3,100 fatalities, this includes suicides as well as fatalities from both intentional and accidental shootings. For instance, the 10 to 18 deadliest mass shootings in the United States from 1982 to 2019 involved the use of assault rifles, according to the study by the Congressional Research Service. Although assault rifles may not be the source of most gun violence occurrences, they have recently been the focus of gun control initiatives due to the potential to result in large numbers of casualties and their connection to violent crimes that made headlines. Many proponents of gun control contend that outlawing assault rifles and large capacity magazines would aid in lowering the number of fatalities and injuries brought on by these kinds of weapons.
You use your time. All right, for the negative side, you can begin.
Any form of art is a form of power. It has impact, it can affect change, it can not only move us, but it also makes us move. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. My group and I agree with this quote, so we negate the resolution or the bill being passed. The U.S. federal government should not pass the assault weapons ban of 2023. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the term assault weapons or assault rifles can be defined as any various automatic or semi-automatic firearms, which mostly notably includes all AR-style rifles. This bill is attempting to ban a multitude of assault weapons in hopes to decrease gun violence in the United States. This is a direct threat to law-abiding citizens who wish to not own assault weapons as their Second Amendment right. The issue is not the assault weapons in question, but rather the people behind guns choosing to inflict violence upon other people. Additionally, the effects of this ban should significantly and disproportionately affect law-abiding citizens who want to own assault weapons for themselves, as well as negatively affecting society as a whole with unintended consequences as a result. Guns were created as a tool of authority and power. However, that definition based on the Second Amendment has changed over time to become a primary tool for defense from the perspective of its user. Though this bill seeks a possible solution to reduce gun violence, it is heavily flawed because of our influence on each other, not the weapon itself. The weapon is not alive nor sentient, but we are as we give it the influence to support our perspective by pointing and shooting. Though this bill seems to have the intention to help the public, it will in fact create multiple issues from an immediate weapons ban. Our Second Amendment is proof of that, since many people interpret it differently. The ratified 1791 amendment by the U.S. Congress states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. However, why does this correlate to why the affirmative side is saying that assault rifles are a bad influence, or at least why those listed on Senate Bill 25 should be banned? The answer is vague because there are many possible answers to either ban or not ban the list of firearms on the bill. You can try to make the argument that guns create violent people, which results in many casualties. But if that's the case, then we can say that Detective Sergeant Mays and the other 3 detectives from this unit who entered the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee are violent. However, we cannot because they are the same officers who shot and killed 20-year-old Audrey Hale with assault rifles, resulting in saving many lives of children, teachers, and other faculty at the school. Furthermore, we can agree that gun regulation is needed to reduce unwanted gun violence. If we can't do that, then let's educate and enforce safe security for those who have guns to exercise self-defense rather than offense, like the National African American Gun Association, which was created by Philip Smith in 2015. He created the organization to help educate African Americans on gun safety, self-defense, and the history of Black gun ownership. The passing of Senate Bill 25 would not only have an effect on the people, but on our economy as well, because we will endure a huge loss. The United States has the largest economy in the world with a GDP of over $20 trillion. According to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the manufacture and sales of firearms contributes to the United States economy as a whole. In 2021, the firearm and ammunition industry was responsible for as much as $70.52 billion in total economic activity in the country. With that being said, passing the bill will cause a domino effect, which starts with assault weapons and potentially getting rid of guns completely. This will cause many people to lose their jobs and a lot of businesses as well. The industry also helps people maintain a livelihood in different fields. If the firearm and ammunition industry were affected, the livelihood of people would be affected as well. The Senate Bill 25 does not show you this because this ban would ultimately negatively affect our people. After all, American author Stephen King once said, "Money talks, bullshit walks."
Thank y'all. Make sure that when you finish speaking, and if you have still time left, make sure you say you yield your time.
Oh, yield my time.
Okay, thank you. And we now go to the crossfire section. You have 2 minutes for the section. You may begin.
All resources will have an effect on the economy. If financial resources can be allocated to mental health resources, why can't we allocate resources to ending gun violence?
So, in order to actually allocate for that, that's why we should promote education, higher education. So, even though gun casualties is a thing, why not actually propose higher education to make sure those who are wanting self-defense to protect themselves should have the access to gain education?
I mean, that still comes at like a cost.
So it may come at a cost, yes, that's most definitely. However, I feel that we should really promote severe background checks because let's say that you're in a situation where you may need a gun to protect yourself, and if you're saying that we want guns to be banned, especially assault weapons, okay, and in the heat of the moment, you may think I should have gotten a gun to possibly reach out and hurt the threat from hurting me. If anything, you may not want to kill per se, but at least give yourself enough time to actually escape the situation so you can possibly save your life for another day. And also, based on your argument, we can say that assault weapons are not necessarily the mass, or they're not really like the most deadliest weapon. Handguns are actually the most deadliest weapons of all time. And that also goes along with suicide rates. Most suicides, according to firearms, are mostly being used by handguns themselves.
Time. All right, now we will go to the second speaker for the affirmative side. You may begin when you're ready.
One second. I just wrote down my speech. Okay. I am speaking on behalf of the affirmative side of the assault weapons ban of 2023. The first point I would like to address is that the assault weapons ban of 2023 will significantly help decrease the sale and trade of illegal firearms within the black market. A common argument from pro-gun lobbyists is that a ban on assault weapons would have an adverse effect in limiting the amount of assault weapons available to the public. It is argued that this ban would increase the amount of illegal firearm trade on the black market. Arguments against the assault weapons ban are oftentimes focused too heavily on the ways in which the ban would increase illegal trade on the black market instead of discussing the main causes that contribute to the black market and an individual's need to access the market to purchase illegal firearms to begin with. Eliminating the reasons that drive individuals to initially access the black market will significantly decrease the crime that comes from it. Decriminalizing previously punishable offenses such as certain drug possession, sex work, and gambling would decrease the need and likelihood of individuals with a criminal record using the black market to achieve gun ownership. Oxford Academic draws a clear correlation between drug crimes and gun use by stating, quote, 68% of substance-related crimes involve guns. PubMed, quote, states, it has been estimated that women involved in street prostitution are 60 to 100 times more likely to be murdered than are non-prostitute females. Oftentimes, guns are used as a tool and necessity in aiding their business, and since we can't affect the supply, we can't affect their need, we must affect their business directly. So look at all the ways that criminals make their money and what they are making their money for. Legalize drugs, legalize sex work, and legalize gambling. Every single thing that makes money for organized crime should be looked at with the intention of removing their profit streams. That will be the only way you are going to shut down the firearms black market, to make sure that the majority of the people using it now no longer have a need or desire to do so. The assault weapons ban also does not infringe on the Second Amendment. Congress.gov defines the Second Amendment as a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Second Amendment guarantees the right of a regulated militia, not individuals, to have guns. A militia is defined as a military force that is raised from the civil population to supplement a regular army in an emergency. People also do not use assault weapons to defend themselves. The most commonly used gun for self-defense in America are handguns. You wouldn't see someone walking around with an AR-15 just in case they need to defend themselves. They're too big and bulky and not easily concealable. So if you get to keep your self-defense guns, why should it matter that we ban the more deadly and impractical guns? When defending yourself, you will not find yourself fighting against an entire army in which you need a military gun for. Mitch.
All right, now we will go to the negative side for the second speaker.
Okay, I'm speaking on negating the Senate Bill 25 assaults ban. According to Pew Research, Center studies found that guns of all types were used substantially more often defensively than criminally, and that gun-wielding civilians in self-defense or some other legally justified causes killers between 1,500 and 2,800 felons annually. The Pew Research Center also gathered data from gun owners showing that nearly half of gun owners volunteer that the main reason they own a gun is for protection. Just 32% say they have a gun primarily for hunting and other reasons, such as target shooting, and simply because it's their constitutional right. Although gun control is necessary, it doesn't mean banning a list of guns entirely. My first point that I will start with is the statistics that shows most deaths and mass shootings are caused by handguns and not so much assault rifles. Stolen handguns account for 15% according to PBS Frontline. Gun control laws will not prevent criminals from obtaining guns or breaking laws. The NRA Institute for Legislative Action states that the vast majority of criminals obtain their firearms through other means, including illegal underground sales, either bought, borrowed, traded, rented from friends and family, theft, and the list continues. Gun laws do not deter crime. Gun ownership deters crime. The National Rifle Association states the simplest solution is crime control, enforcing existing laws aimed at criminals who carry and use firearms to commit their crimes. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, gun control laws do not work, primarily because illicit markets easily adapt to government restrictions on gun purchase and possession. The second point that I want to make is how, if the bill is passed, that it would open the door to further firearm restrictions. In 1934, the government imposed the assault weapons ban and said they don't want to take our guns, just tax for machine guns. In 1968, the Gun Control Act came about and the government said they don't want to take the guns away, just where they came from. In 1986, the government enacted the Firearms Owners Protection Act and said we don't want the guns, just the end of producing machine guns. In 1994, the assault weapons ban was introduced and the government then said keep the guns, we just want to limit the features that you can have. And lastly, in 2019, Beto O'Rourke said, hell, we're going to take your AR-15s and AK-47s. We've been in the same situation for the past 90 years, and who's to say we won't have any other restrictions in the future? The main purpose of the Second Amendment is to show that a tyrannical power overtake, the American people and the Americans will still be able to defend themselves. The last point I want to make for negating the bill are the loopholes that exist. If you review the bill thoroughly, you can find loopholes that will make you question its importance, like how the prohibition does not apply to firearms that is manually operated by bolt, pump, lever, or slide action, according to Congress.gov. And the biggest one being, upon taking custody of the grandfather's semi-automatic assault weapon, the licensee shall comply with all requirements of this chapter as if the licensee were transferring the grandfather's semi-automatic assault weapon from the licensee's inventory to the unlicensed transferee. For instance, gun shows or the private sale loopholes, hate crimes, and Charleston loopholes. Under the loopholes for private sales and gun shows, sellers are not required to take a background check on gun purchasers. When it comes to hate crimes, many offenders will plead down to a hate crime misdemeanor to prevent losing their right to own a firearm. The Charleston loophole federal law allows dealers to immediately get access to sell firearms to a purchaser within 3 days, even if their background check isn't completed. I yield my time.
Thank you. Now we'll go into the second crossfire. You may start when you are ready.
What kind of gun did they use for protection? The bill explicitly states over 2,000 guns that are most commonly used for self-defense, sport shooting, and hunting for the very purpose to uphold the wishes of those looking for self-protection are excluded from the ban.
Like I said, guns are not the problem. Crime control is the problem. So even if you want to ban the guns, there's still, like I said, there's still the black market that you can still obtain the guns.
Well, like I said, there are ways to combat the black market by legalizing the things that are causing the black market, by people are wanting firearms to commit crimes. So the crimes that they're committing need to be legalized, like legalizing certain drugs that they're using the guns to get, legalizing sex work, legalizing gambling, things that people are using the black market to get guns for, they need.
Even if there's legal ways to get the guns in the black market, there's still other loopholes. So yes, they might not get it from the black market, but they can still get the gun from, like I said, their friends, theft, off of a crime scene. Are we allowed to take a timeout?
I don't, just continue. You have 30 seconds left.
Okay.
I thought we were allowed to have a 2-minute timeout.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Just like, are we doing that? Timeout?
Yes, I believe so. Each side gets 2 minutes.
Or we're not going to take 2 minutes, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's why I stopped, because I see the comment and I was I'm trying to do it. There we go, but I can't look at that. We're ready.
Okay.
So when you were talking about legalizing drugs and other things, you can't legalize crack, or like heroin or any other thing. Like
Decriminalize, not legalize.
decriminalize. Well,
Time.
okay.
Thank y'all. We will now be going to the third speaker on the affirmative side for the summary. You may begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Emily and I'm representing the affirmative case relating to the assault weapons ban of 2023. Assault weapons prove far more dangerous than any other type of gun. These weapons have the capability to fire multiple rounds of ammunition, and when paired with a number of different accessories, can cause further damage to its intended target, which is often people. The term accessory means an object or device that is not essential in itself but adds to the convenience or effectiveness of something else. The convenience as it relates to assault weapons is optimizing harm and fatality. Allowing these weapons that were made for the sole purpose of maximizing killings in a military setting have no place in the hands of everyday civilians. We conclude that assault weapons should be banned from the public trade, sale, and use, as they help facilitate the infringement of people's freedoms and independence. The correlation between the rate of mass shootings in America and assault weapons prove that the accessibility of these guns, paired with their convenience, further perpetuates crimes and perpetuates violence as well. When discussing gun control, experts at the Gifford Law Group state that, quote, "The availability of unusually dangerous weaponry like assault weapons and large-capacity magazines has fueled an alarming increase in the high-casualty mass shootings across the nation. Perpetrators of many of the deadliest shootings in modern American history, including Las Vegas, Orlando, Sandy Hook Elementary, and many more, use assault weapons equipped with large-capacity magazines. In 2017, the instance of the Las Vegas shooting leaving 58 innocent people dead, the shooter, Stephen Paddock, used numerous accessories and modifications on 12 out of the 23 guns found in his possession. Law enforcement details that Paddock legally modified these weapons to fire like automatic weapons, using an alteration known as a bump fire stock. The legal availability of such violent weapons is an injustice to victims of such violence. It's our responsibility to enact certain regulations to preserve public safety and prevent gun-related violence." One of, if not the most common points of rebuttal for pro-gun lobbyists surrounding gun control is that a ban targeting guns of any kind would be an attack on the Second Amendment. While the Second Amendment guarantees the right to bear arms, this amendment is not unlimited and an absolute right. It needs to be revised as evolution progresses. The language of the Second Amendment was written in what is now considered an outdated historical context and when the technology of guns was of far lower quality. At this time, typical firearms included muskets and flintlock pistols, both only having the capacity to hold a single round at a time. Civilians saw the need to bear arms as a primary tool for personal protection in a time lacking widespread military or law enforcement. It's absurd that an article written 232 years ago is used to defend such a highly sensitive and current issue that is assault weapon violence. With this being said, the ban on assault weapons does not inherently violate the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court, in the case of Cole v. Hogan, in Articles 62425 and 62728, states that, quote, protecting assault weapons precisely because they are meant for the battlefield are not in common practice of the use of the time of lawful purposes. These lawful purposes that were outlined include instances of hunting, sports shooting, and self-defense. In fact, the bill explicitly excludes 2,258 legitimate hunting and sporting rifles and shotguns by specific make and model name, including the Ed Brown hunting rifle and the Bolt action rifle. At any rate, an assault weapon ban is not an attack on the Second Amendment, but a greater extent that can be considered a middle ground for upholding the right to bear arms with the right to public safety of others. Long term, the effectiveness of an assault weapons ban would not only take time, but consistent enforcement to prove beneficial. The Clinton administration made history with the assault weapons ban in 1994, being the first to federally recognize the term assault rifle. Much like the 2023 ban, Clinton's ban strived to tackle gun legislation and implement restrictions against military-style weapons. In the 10 years that the ban was active, although small, the impacts of the ban displayed were positive throughout time. The study found clear indications that the use of assault weapons in crime did decline after the ban went into effect. When discussing the effects, those against the assault weapon ban tend to debate the lack of change this bill brought forth. The matter of fact is that the large-scale change requires time and is gradual. With the large majority of weapons being grandfathered into the ban, actually getting these weapons off the street will take time and financial resources. Congress outlined a solution in the assault weapons ban of 2021 that allows states to use the Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program funds to compensate individuals who surrender an assault weapon in a buyback program. As previously mentioned, the black market is a large contributor to the resale and trade of assault weapons in a way that those who may fail a government-provided background check or suffer mental illness can access an assault weapon easily. Much like the arguments from the anti-gun control groups on the assault weapons ban, trade on the black market will also take years and resources to offset, but the assault weapon ban is necessary in order to experience any change at all.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the third speaker for the negative. When you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready. Hello, my name is Benji Zavala, and I'm on the negative side of the assault weapons ban. Both sides have made fair arguments as to why or why not this bill should be passed. However, I feel we should review all of the reasons why the U.S. federal government should not pass the assault weapons ban of 2023. The misinterpretation of the Second Amendment is what has led to this conversation. According to the decision on District of Columbia versus Heller decision, which decided that regulating gun control is unconstitutional, firstly, our Second Amendment rights should not be stripped away from law-abiding citizens who choose to own assault weapons. Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, our Second Amendment rights should not be stripped away from, yes. The Second Amendment guarantees an individual's right to bear arms. A ban on assault weapons would directly violate this right. Additionally, the previous assault weapons ban that President Clinton signed into effect, which you spoke to, has been proven ineffective as a means to reduce mass shootings. According to the National Rifle Association, in a congressionally mandated study of the assault weapons ban of '94, found that the ban had little to no impact on reducing gun violence due to the fact that assault weapons are not actually the most used guns in mass shootings. They are in fact handguns. Research conducted by the RAND Corporation found no conclusive evidence which indicated that an assault weapons ban would reduce mass shootings. Additionally, people feel much more safe with guns as opposed to not having guns, particularly women. Self-defense is the main reason why women own firearms. According to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, more than 48% of women surveyed said that they kept a gun for self-protection and home defense. More than 80% of women reported feeling more secure because of owning a firearm, while 74% said they considered owning a gun a matter of survival and self-reliance. The facts are people feel more safe when they know they have a gun. A ban on assault rifles would be counterintuitive to making Americans feel more safe. These assault weapons are the most efficient and effective guns to make people feel more safe. Also, female gun ownership is on the rise. They are the fastest growing gun-owning demographic. According to a 2021 study from the National Firearms Survey conducted by Harvard and Northwestern, nearly 50% of new gun owners were women between January 2019 and April 2021. This shows how much safer women feel with guns, specifically assault weapons, because they are the best defense against other assault weapons. In response to school shootings, officers are able to fight back against school shooters because they are armed themselves with assault weapons, which is why we would not want to unarm our police, because this bill would not eliminate gun violence. It would only lessen our ability to fight back against those who choose to inflict harm onto others. This bill would make life much worse for everyone else. This ban cannot magically remove assault weapons out of everyone's inventory who already owns them. There will still be guns in circulation. People who still want to have access to these weapons will still be able to get them, even if illegally. As you pointed out, it would take more time to fully negate all of the assault weapons out of everyone's possession. According to the NSSF, the main source of guns used in crime are from the black market. And what will this ban do to help? Not much. It will, if anything, make the situation worse than what it already is, and we would have nothing to defend ourselves with. We would be left with handguns in in a fight against assault weapons. This ban would not have the power to control illegal methods to obtain firearms. Rather, it would plan to unarm law-abiding citizens who might be the best chance to stop those who choose to inflict harm onto others. Furthermore, the effects on our society and economy would be devastating and negatively affect our society as a whole. The sale and distribution of guns contributes billions and billions of dollars into our economy each year. A lot of people tend to forget the financial side of things when it comes to gun bans. According to the NSSF, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, in 2022 there were 4.2 million new gun owners. These numbers will continue to swell as time goes on. There's no denying the economical impact of these weapons on our economy. With an assault weapons ban in place, there will be less gun sales and therefore less money going into our economy as a result. I yield my time.
Thank you. We will now go to the Grand Crossfire. This one will have 3 minutes and it's going to be all speakers. You may begin when you're ready.
So as it pertains to law enforcement, there was actually a report by the Violence Policy Center from February to July of 1995 that specifically studied the effect that assault weapons has on law enforcement. And the purpose of this study was to show that in 5 months, 8 police officers were killed and 9 were wounded by assault weapons, and that the Tribune did an interview with a former police officer, and he stated that assault rifles are particularly feared by police officers because of their firepower. Although vests worn by most police officers are designed to stop handgun bullets, they're ineffective against high-power rifles, said the Tampa Police Department. Do you have any comment on that? Because we're not taking it away from police officers, so getting these weapons off of the street is actually beneficial to them.
Also, people do not use assault weapons for self-defense. They use handguns for self-defense. And the ban doesn't ban handguns.
So you guys can definitely say that. However, we can still say that handguns are more deadly, and we can even look up that there was a case where handguns actually killed at least 30-something people, about 31 people, versus an assault weapon possibly killing at least 8, injuring some others. But handguns are more deadly than assault weapons as a whole.
Okay.
And the bill fails to even have any restrictions against handguns, and mainly focus on assault weapons, but not handguns. Handguns are more sneaky, they're more concealed. You can easily take it in somewhere, and then by surprise, someone pulls it out, and we're just kind of left in shock. Okay, this was so sudden. We didn't we can't prepare for a handgun to come out of nowhere versus an assault weapon. We can see a weapon and we think, okay, big gun. Okay, let's try to move out of the way. And again, handgun, more concealed. No one knows until someone pulls it out and starts shooting.
Do you think that the assault rifle ban would help police officers feel safe doing their job because they aren't faced with civilians with military-grade weapons?
Is it just
No.
It's everybody. It's everybody.
So as we stated before on the rebuttal, it goes back to crime control. And like he said, most of the crime are committed with handguns. So it's not a matter of it's just the fact that whoever has ownership of the gun, if they're going to use it for bad or for good, they don't have to use an assault rifle. For police to be fearful, they can use a pistol, and the officers will still probably have that same fear. A
But
bullet
they
is
have
a
more of a
bullet.
chance of living because of the vest.
Well, that's not necessarily, well,
The vest can withstand a pistol or a handgun, but it can't withstand a rifle or
Time. All right, we're gonna go to the last section now for the final speakers. So we're gonna go to the affirmative side first.
The conclusion then is unwavering. The need for an assault weapons ban is dire. To prevent the ongoing threat to public safety, the ratification of the assault weapons ban of 2023 is crucial in protecting individuals and their right to public safety. People should feel safe going to school, work, and social gatherings, free from fear that they might fall victim to an epidemic that is gun violence in America. Oftentimes, those who are in opposition of the assault weapons ban tend to argue that guns don't kill people, people kill people. To this we say, people do kill people, utilizing weapons oftentimes paired with accessories and tools available to them. The Rockefeller Institute of Government found that mass shootings that involved assault rifles resulted in an average of 5.2 deaths and 7.6 injuries, compared to mass shootings that didn't involve assault rifles, resulted in an average of 2.9 deaths and 3.2 injuries. To defend this ban, we also acknowledge that the Second Amendment is not unlimited and requires both reconsideration and revision in the bout of evolution. Weapons that are currently defended by the Second Amendment are not the same caliber as the ones protected by the same amendment today. It is possible and plausible to uphold the personal right to bear arms while also respecting the right to freedom and security that victims of gun violence lack. Banning assault rifles are crucial in protecting public safety. Children who get massacred in school, grocery stores, employees that find themselves massacred at work, and couples at the movie theaters who end up fighting for their lives are among those very rights are aimed to protect. The Assault Weapons Act of 2023 aims to protect the rights of individuals so they're free of fear of the mundane. Members of the United States military are legally required to go through extensive training in order to carefully be able to handle these weapons that have been made to the public. Not only are these weapons dangerous on their own, but the accessories available to the public making them more deadly are a definite infringement on the safety of innocent civilians. I yield my time.
All right, thank you. Now we will go on to the fourth speaker on the negative side.
To close this debate, we have discussed the impact of this bill and how it can do more harm than good internally and externally. It will ignite future issues that will place our nation in a repeated cycle of constant bickering, back and forth, and tiresome solutions of what should be done and what could be done. Pushing forward with this bill will result in added chaos for those who feel their Second Amendment right is being taken away, which will promote illegal crime in our communities to fluctuate tenfold. The black market will create new models and modifications for assault rifles if this bill passes, and then there will become a substitute for an assault rifle like the AR-15. Also, our economy will be heavily affected, being the #1 largest in the world, meaning multiple businesses being shut down will result in a large number of people becoming unable to make ends meet and face being homeless. Furthermore, innocent people will truly become worried about walking outside with the thought about why the bill didn't bring any change in our communities. It is pointless to take away guns that have been around for many years and centuries, and then substitute them for civil warfare, where words are exchanged with no form of violence or negative intentions towards another person or party. If you truly want to pass a bill with embedded loopholes, then you are justified in the consequences that will ensue afterwards. You are going to be wondering why there's blood on your hands when it could have been avoided if innocent people could protect themselves rightfully in their homes. For example, the federal assault weapons ban of 1994 was passed by the U.S. Congress on August 25, 1994, and signed by former President Bill Clinton on September 13, 1994, to then expire exactly 10 years later in 2004, an experimental test that proved somewhat effective in reducing the mass shootings nationwide. However, it included 1999's Columbine High School massacre, the deadliest mass shooting during the time period of the ban, according to the Ohio Capitol Journal. When the law expired, an immediate rise in mass shooting deaths in the years after the assault weapons ban expired in 2004. In the span of 13 years between 2004, the average number of yearly deaths attributed to mass shootings was 25, compared with the 5.3 during the 10-year term of the ban. To put it bluntly, the 2010s had an exceeding rate of deaths since its expiration 19 years ago. The federal weapons ban of 1994 and Senate Bill 25 are very similar in regarding banning any firearm defined to be an assault rifle, but both bills are flawed with vague text by having embedded loopholes that brought no permanent change in our communities. Take note that guns are a part of annual suicides in the United States. According to statistics taken by Stanford University, 1,200 gun owners died by suicide by using a handgun over a steady period. Roughly 1 in 7 suicides occurred within the first month of buying a handgun. This took place in California from 2004 to 2016 after the expiration of the federal weapons ban in 1994. If you are scared of guns, then why not find the proper education to protect those who are afraid to defend themselves from the danger that is harming society, like an intruder who is trespassing on private property uninvited. There are many credible gun associations that focus on educating further gun owners, like the National African American Gun Association, which has about 48,000 members because of the incidents that followed in 2020 with deaths like Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. Other minority groups like women, according to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, since 2005 there's been a 77% rise in women buying their
All right. Turn off the recording now.